She was 16, brilliant, beautiful, and for 9 days she was Queen of England. Then the crowds turned, the axe was raised, and her name was written in blood across Tudor history. This is the story of Lady Jane Grey, a girl who never wanted a crown, but lost her life because of it. Jane was born in late 1536 or early 1537 into a world of privilege and expectation. The eldest daughter of Henry Grey, Duke of Suffolk, and Frances Brandon, she was the great-granddaughter of Henry VII and a firmly established member of the extended royal family. Her upbringing was deeply rooted in religion, discipline, and education. Even in an age that valued education for noble girls, Jane's achievements were remarkable. She mastered Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, and spoke fluent French and Italian. Those who met her praised her not only for her beauty, but also a sharp mind and deep commitment to her Protestant faith. Her life changed forever in July 1553. Her young cousin, King Edward VI, the only surviving son of Henry VIII, was dying. Edward was a devout Protestant and feared that if his half-sister Mary, a staunch Catholic, inherited the throne, she would undo the religious reforms of his reign. Guided and arguably manipulated by his chief minister, John Dudley, the Duke of Northumberland, Edward altered the line of succession to name Jane as his heir. This suited Northumberland well. Jane had recently married his son, Lord Guildford Dudley, bringing her future to his family's ambitions. When Edward died on July 6, 1553, Jane was summoned to the Tower of London, the traditional site for the crowning of monarchs, and told she was now Queen of England. On July 10th, she was publicly proclaimed Queen, with Guildford at her side. But Jane's claim was legally and politically fragile. She was fifth in line to the throne, and her accession bypassed Mary entirely. Everything depended on England's willingness to accept a Protestant queen over the rightful Catholic heir. Mary, however, acted quickly and decisively. From her estates in East Anglia, she gathered support from nobles, gentry, and ordinary people alike. Her claim as the legitimate daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon carried enormous weight. Within days, her army far outnumbered the forces loyal to Jane. And on July 19th, the Privy Council abandoned Jane and declared Mary the rightful queen. Jane's reign was over before it had truly begun. Jane and Guildford were confined to the Tower of London. At first, Mary showed clemency. Jane was, after all, a reluctant monarch. She later claimed she had never sought the crown, and evidence suggests she had been pressured into accepting it. But politics soon shifted. In January 1554, the Wyatt Rebellion erupted as a Protestant-led uprising opposing Mary's planned marriage to Philip of Spain. Jane's father, Henry Grey, joined the plot, and even though Jane herself had no part in the rebellion, her very existence now posed a threat to Mary's security. For as long as Jane lived, she could be used by others as a figurehead to challenge the crown. The sentence came swiftly. On February 12, 1554, Guildford was taken to Tower Hill, where he was beheaded in public. His body was brought back by cart past Jane's lodgings, a grim signal of what was to come. Shortly after, Jane was escorted to the inner green of the tower. Witnesses described her as calm and composed. She addressed the small crowd with dignity. "I pray you dispatch me quickly." Blindfolded, she reached out for the block, hesitating for a moment. "Where is it?" she asked. A bystander guided her hand. Placing her head upon the block, she spoke her final words. "Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit." The executioner's axe fell, ending the life of a girl who had been queen for just 9 days. Her reign from July 10th to July 19th, 1553, remains the shortest in English history. Her death was a political act born not of her ambition, but of the aspirations of men around her. She had been a pawn in a high-stakes game of power, and when she was no longer helpful, she was sacrificed. Lady Jane Grey's story endures not only because of her youth and her brevity of her reign, but because she faced her fate with intelligence, courage, and faith. She is a haunting reminder of the dangers of power in Tudor England, where fortunes could rise and fall in a matter of days, and a crown could weigh as heavily as a death sentence. If you'd like to hear more about the rulers, rebels, and innocents caught in the deadly currents of Tudor politics, follow for the next story, because Lady Jane was far from the only one to lose her life for the crown.